and natural shrines, and temples of many other kinds.
אבל אם אנחנו חודרים לרנגן מפה.
The Shiva. I just basically gave directions to it, the mystery rock. Some people would refer to it as a rock, other people would come from India and refer to it as the Shiva. And they all wanted to know where it was.
We're coming and worshiping the Shiva, for at least a year and probably longer. And I think it just kind of became popular by word of mouth.
They traveled around the park endlessly looking for it because a lot of people that work around here don't know what they were referring to. So they'd be literally circling the tea garden, trying to figure out where it was, knocking on the museum door, out there in the parking lot.
And the fact that it was a traffic barrier originally, which of course some of the worshippers didn't believe.
So you could tell by the way they referred to it. If they referred to it as the rock or the parking barrier, they obviously weren't the worshippers. If they referred to it as the Shiva, then you knew.
Hi.
And the worshippers that came here were so sweet. They would pour milk over it, and they would walk around it several times, and so they were adhering to the faith that they probably had followed before they came to this country.
We'd get, 10 a day sometimes? At least 10 a day sometimes, on busy days. But now it's maybe one a week.
And then people like us.
Yeah, and then people like you. Yeah.
In Hindu cosmology, Shiva, the god of creation and destruction, appears in the form of a phallus. For a short while, one such Shiva linga resided here in Golden Gate Park.
The stone that appeared over here, it's a traffic barrier that came over to the park on the back of a truck that they had just bought.
Well, originally I picked it up when we got this truck new to see if I wanted something that was relatively not too big, that was heavy. And I picked it up and went out and weighed it at the Department of Public Works. And then then we brought it back and we were checking the boom out to see if everything in the book was the same as, you can do that if you have a heavy enough weight. I think it weighed 2,600 pounds, but don't quote me. Anyhow, and once we did all that, the foreman that was in charge or was in charge of the tea garden at the time loves stones, loves to work with rocks. He loves anything. Anytime we find a stone anywhere in a department that's, in the street or something, we always bring it by and drop it off. So we just figured we'd drop this off too, and if he could find a place to put it, he would.
And when he left, he didn't take the stone with him. About 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't remember exactly.
And then when I came back, I went, back to the area because the foreman and I are, besides working together, are friends. And I got talking to one of the gardeners that worked for him, and he was telling me people are coming by here worshiping this stone.
The Shiva in Golden Gate Park attracted a diverse community. Local Hindus and Indian pilgrims alike came together to worship this god of creation and destruction.
Light is the source of everything. I mean, light is literally the source of what, allowed you to sit here and me to sit here, and it also is, in its purest sense, is a duality. It embodies the initial duality of the manifest universe because it is at both wave and particle. But light, that's what light is. Light is both those things at the same time, and it's that duality in which everything is created. Everything, right, rests, you know, good, bad, light, dark, all that stuff, right? You know, so, and since light is the nature of all of this stuff, it simply reflects that on all these levels. Anyway. And that's one of the reasons, you know, they kind of weigh that as recognition of the importance that light plays in the source and where we come from, and that, you know, what drives this whole existence, you know, the whole existence. I had no idea what to expect. I knew that there were going to be something new.
Maybe turn the volume
But it was, and you'll see, I think there's some shots of me, and I look like totally like, what is going on? You know, like, it was a real eye-opener.
I think that the bulk of those larger gatherings probably happened after work on weekends, because I never saw more than maybe 10 people there at one time. Yeah. But then I'm not here all the time. I mean, I'm not always outside here. You know. Sometimes I have to work in here.
And then all of a sudden I realized what was going on, and just over a year ago that it really peaked.
And you can see, you know, kind of in their eyes, you know, they've been like temple hopping probably for days now. And they just look how stoned she's like totally out there. Normally at you know, normal regular temples around the state, it's pujari up there. None of these people get to go up there. It's all done through these priests.
It's like just the perfect setting. Here you had an old ruins with this Shiva, and you know, it just kind of all fit together. It was almost mystical in the way it came together.
That was always interesting to me, the milk and the flowers and the decorations and stuff. I found it very interesting.
It's just decorating. You just kind of dress them up. What you do is you bathe. You know, they're bathed and cleaned. You know, just like you would treat, you know, a guest. You know, they're offered, you know, to get comfortable, and they're given food and shelter, and you give them clothes, and you dress them up, and you do all that. These are just some of the stuff you use. Conch shell, Gilam, bells.
With the camphor.
Camphor. Well, that's camphor. Here's a Gilam. Okay. That would be known. That's kind of It's no wonder people walking by there looked at like, what could they possibly be doing?
People just saw it as just the way of life, that it could have been a traffic barrier, but in fact it looked so much like the Shiva that there's nothing wrong. They saw nothing wrong in it, having come here as a traffic barrier. They could still worship it. Other people just didn't believe it.
And when I questioned him about it, because he'd mentioned to the people that came by that it just was put here, it wasn't, anything spectacular. And they said it was karma, so I just agreed with that. So I'm not going to argue with karma. If it was us to put it there, it was us to put it there. And it just evolved from there. People had all kinds of stories to tell, but that's how it really got there. But who am I to argue about whether it's karma or what placed it there other than us?
Then it hit the papers, and then it got to be really popular. That Natir Ross, writers for the Chronicle.
Then it started to make it into Hindu papers as far away as India.
Channel 4 news people picked it up.
I mean, even the National Enquirer ran a story on it, which was completely accurate, I might add. It's amazed me.
And I guess it went around the world on CNN.
All the local radio stations.
Oh, a woman from that India West newspaper. And another guy from someplace, Vacaville.
Herb Cain ran something on it. I mean, the list was endless on who was coming to see it.
It got to be more popular when Kalidas decided that he wanted the thing to be permanent. And I told him, don't go asking the park to do that, because they won't. You know, you're going to get an answer that you don't want. And that's exactly what happened. He went up there and asked him if he could make it a permanent site. They said no. In fact, take it out of here.
I mean, it's true, you can't have religious shrines in the park. We've always had that policy now.
So then he got a court injunction to not allow the park to move it. He wanted him to keep it there. So then the court said, yeah, you know, for a while. No, the park just finally said to him, take it. You know, he asked for it eventually, and they said, fine. Where do you want it? The same guy that brought it here with the truck came and picked it up one day and took it out. So I don't know what happened to it after that. I don't know if that's going to come out too well because it's kind of dark. This is the stone here. This is Kali Das over in the corner here. And Mel, he's the rigger. Jim Wolford, he's the crane operator. He's got this boom in the back. It's a dump truck. And they're setting the stone in there to move it over to the Kali Das.
Oh, we put a couple of slings on it. These nylon slings I could show you. Yeah, oh, okay. There we go. We put a couple of slings like this, only they're 20 feet long. This is a new one. It's always nice to have a new, you know. Anyhow, the rigger rigs them up, but that's how it's moved. And these nylon straps are good for, can you get this? You want to try it? Yeah. Pretty good slings, really. That better? That's kind of self-explanatory. They're good for quite a bit.
So that is where you could teach two Shivas almost.
Yeah, any one of them could, but you put two of them on, you sure feel good about it, you know.
You know, if they wanted to move it, they could have thought of someplace else other than inside his studio. I mean, you know, I mean, that if it's that important to so many people, it should be on public view somewhere. Not that you have to call up and make an appointment to see it. I don't think that's fair.
I don't want to get involved in a political move. But it had a lot to do with something. Although, not more than 100 feet away from that site is a Buddha, and nobody said anything about that. In fact, they're going to spend money and redo that. But that's a different story. That's in the tea garden. You know, I don't really understand it. I don't try to.
It was only after it became, you know, so well known in the media, people were hearing about it in the New York Times and coming, that they began to realize that there would be objections because it was seen as a religious symbol, and hence, you know, it didn't have any place in a park. I was told once by a family of Indians that should they take out the one that was there, another one would rise in its place, and it certainly looks that way, doesn't it?
Shiva, the Hindu god of creation and destruction, united a community. It also divided it. Some believe the rock itself is sacred, and so worship it at the home of Baba Kali Das. Others continue to worship at the site.
All this is just kind of, for Hindus, it just symbolizes the light that's in you. Everything kind of comes from light. Because of light. Oh yeah, go around 3 times.
And
This way?
actually clockwise.
Clockwise is better, but you know, whatever.
It removes karma. The other way, it's more kind of a magical thing, but you got to be careful with that one. I don't know how those work.
It symbolizes cutting the bonds. If you go clockwise?
Clockwise.
You go clockwise. That's one
Whenever
number.
you go
There's
around
more.
things, always clockwise. Unless you know the magic spells.
Bye-bye.